Hello everyone. Today we are going to understand DynamoDB in AWS. Let's start with DynamoDB. So, what what is a DynamoDB? It's basically a NoSQL database. It's a fully managed service. You don't have to do any uh, instance creation or server creation or anything or any management from your side. That is, you could say it's a serverless in service provided by AWS. It's highly available. The data is replicated across multiple AZs, and plus you have the ability to replicate this data in the other regions as well. And what is the massive scale it provides? Like millions of requests, trillions of rows, infinite rows, you could say, and hundreds of TB of storage. Very low latency retrieval. Plus, it is very easily integrated with IAM. So, your authorization and all those stuff is handled by IAM. You could also do event driven programming using the DynamoDB streams. And then it also provides two types of storage classes. One is standard and one is the infrequent access. Standard would be a normal table where you might be using it quite regularly. Infrequent access would be the archive table, you might be rarely using it. Obviously, the cost is saved in infrequent access. So, this was the features of DynamoDB, and the important thing related to DynamoDB. First thing is primary key is mandatory at creation time. We'll look at that creation example in AWS Console. So primary key is mandatory. Primary key can be scalar or it will be composite. So when it is simple, it is a single column, and when it is composite, it is partition key plus the sort key. So hash and range is used here. And what is DynamoDB made of? It is just a collection of tables. Could say tables. You can directly go there, create tables, and every row in DynamoDB is called as items, and columns are called as attributes. Just keep that in mind. And one more important thing to keep in mind, maximum size of an item or a row is 400 KB. This would be a driving factor. And we look into the data types in DynamoDB as we move along. Let's move to the AWS console. So once you go into the AWS console, you can type DynamoDB. You would see this kind of dashboard. Here we have the option to directly create the table. We'll first create the tables and then we move on. So this is employee tables. Say we create an ID is a partition key. Let me keep it all the other options as it is and just create the table. The table will be created in a few seconds. And the table is created. As you can see here, gives a lot of options here. Will not cover every option in this video. Two important things to keep in mind. The read write capacity. This is the capacity mode. See, I have created the table on demand basically. So my read and write capacity is based on demand. So it will auto scale by itself, the capacity and everything. We'll cover this separately. How to calculate related capacity, what is the provision capacity mode. Then we have the auto scaling activities as well when we choose the provisioning capacity mode. Then we have option of creating indexes. There are two types of indexes that you can create. One is local secondary index and one is the other is global. Then we have the option of global tables. As I had mentioned, DynamoDB gives the option to replicate the table in multiple regions. You can also do backups. There is a point in time recovery as well, and you can create backup. And then there are options to export data to S3 and also wireframes. We'll cover those things separately. For now, this was just a walkthrough. Now let's add data basically. If I go here, as you can see in the actions, you have multiple options here. Create index, create items. There are a lot of options. But for now, we'll just focus on creating the item. So this is how the screen will look like. Partition key or the primary key is compulsory. So your JSON view is like this, and your DynamoDB JSON view is like this. Here it provides the data type as well. What is the data type of the column? That's the difference in the normal JSON and this one. So let me create. I just create this new employee. Let me add another attribute to name. I will add my name. Let me add one more attribute, age. Let's create this one. Where item is created. If you look here, this is the form and this is the JSON. So this is how you can create the item. This is why AWS Console. We will have a separate video where we can create using AWS CLI or say any other programming language like Java or Spring Boot support. This is how you add the item here. You can, if I go again here, I created the item. I told about the table class. So there is infrequent access and there is standard. I want to create one more item. Let me do it in this way. Okay, 101. The name, review. We keep only these two for now attributes now. As you can see, in my 101, I have only two attributes, ID and name. In my 100 ID, I have three attributes. So this is possible in DynamoDB, basically in NoSQL database. This is basically dynamic scheme. That is what we call as dynamic scheme. The relational databases like Oracle, etc., they have fixed scheme. When we say fixed schema, it is the number of columns or the attributes are fixed. You cannot change for the rows. For different rows, different attributes. Say I create one more employee here. See what will happen here. I am adding new attribute here. It works. So this is called a dynamic schema. The only important point is primary key or the partition key is mandatory. And if I select, I have option to delete, duplicate, edit. All these options are there. You can either do it through this form or JSON. This is very simple. Now let's understand if I want to query, basically retrieve the data, how we can do. In the explore items, we have two options here. You can see scan and query. What is this scan? So scan basically, I have not provided any filter. So scan is like full table scan. It will scan all the partitions or basically all the data in that partition and then return the data. Now suppose if I add a filter here and run it, you can see here quickly. But point is, it will scan complete table. That's the difference. Let me run it again. I'll give you all the rows. This is like full table scan. And when I go into the query mode, the partition key is compulsory. You can have other filters, but partition key is compulsory. Just keep that in mind. In the query mode, the partition key is compulsory. So you are going to always query based on the partition. So that means it is not going to scan the whole table, only that particular partition. And you can add other attributes. This won't return any result. Let me change the employee. Here I got 102. Your department is IT. Now let me remove this. We just pass the partition key. So we get 100. So this is the difference between query and scan. Let's keep that in mind. Now we'll explore the party QL editor. So this is basically what writing a SQL query. So that's the option that DynamoDB provides. So you have the particle editor. You can look here. This is almost like a SQL. This is basically SQL. If I run this, I get the same results. What you had seen in the query and scan. Now let's say you can also do where it equals to 100. If I do a scan table, I get the complete table. Now you understand the difference between scan and query. You in this particular editor. Select star from employees, I can put the filters here, where filters and everything. Now let me do the query part. If I do this query, if I run it, here I get this 100. You can also, this is the same thing. If we put a where clause, and then suppose if I want to update, update is basically set item. That's the option of set item. So here you can set any attribute and you can put any value. And then you have option to delete. So you can say delete. You can delete a particular row. So this is particle editor. This is like writing a SQL. Now let's understand different data types in DynamoDB. First is string, which we have used very extensively. So it's just a normal string that we add in the B codes. And how DynamoDB actually stores it up. If I open this, see the DynamoDB JSON. Here you can see S. So this is representing string. Similarly, if I add a number, then you would see something like this N. And you can add any number. For Boolean, it is bool, true or false is the value. And you can put null as well for a column. Null is true. Binary would be presented B. This would be basically your image files, etc. Bytes. Then we have the complex data types. One first is list. So list is basically Java, Spring, 100, true. So this is the complete list. Okay. So you can array, you could say an array, but it allows duplicates. And map is basically what you can see in address, key value pair, address, city. These are all these maps. This is another collection of key value pairs. Then after list and map, see one thing is map can have lists also inside it. Now coming to string set, so this is like a list only, but it will only have strings and no duplicates. No ordering is not guaranteed. Similarly for numbers, no duplicates, only numbers, no ordering. And for binary set, it would be the list of bytes with no duplicates. So this is about the data types in DynamoDB. Just recapping what is query and scan. Query is basically querying the table, but the partition case compulsory. And scan is basically complete table is scanned. Even though you provide any filter, it will still read all the partitions and return the data. So just the flow is for scan is table scan reads all items, then filters are applied. So this is the difference. And in case of query, your partition key, your hash function, you go to the correct partition and you read the matching item for that. You return. So this is the difference. The query is basically for specific partition. Scan is complete partition, all the partitions. So sort key is supported. Scan key is not supported, obviously. And performance is query would be faster. And cost wise, query would be low because you are not scanning the whole table. And then it uses the indexes. It can use indexes. We'll cover that later. But most of the time, it is like a full scan. And the recommended is query. And this is scan is only when necessary. Like you have to actually scan the whole thing. Thank you so much. Have a good day.